All right, so I watched Da Boys episode 5 of season 4. This was another solid episode. I still think episode 4 was the best of the season, but yeah, I really enjoyed this one. So, I liked how they were kind of wrapped, or I guess, how they've wrapped up like what's Huey's been doing this entire season. With his mom and his dad. Um, I would argue it's been probably the weakest storyline of the season so far. I don't know. It just feels very disconnected, or it felt very disconnected from everything that was going on. Not bad necessarily, but I think what they did with it this episode was for sure very interesting. I mean, Huey like coming to terms with the fact that he probably should not be giving his dad Compound V, him not doing it, but his mom doing it anyway. I thought that was a very interesting way for it to end. And then, the consequences of those actions occurring. That was pretty wild. I like that they finally gave Simon Pegg like really interesting stuff to do. His performance this episode, he was able to like stretch those acting muscles a bit more so than just being like the dad that's like, Huey, what are you doing, Huey? You're just a boy, Huey. Like the fact that he got to go a little schizo on us and go on a murdering spree, I thought was kind of just cool for that Simon Pegg just finally had something to do in this show. And yeah, I think Huey like being able to let all of his feelings out and tell his dad, that he was his hero and everything, I thought was a very nice moment. And yeah, I enjoyed what they did with Huey in this episode. Frenchie's another interesting, little thing there where he all of his ghosts are sort of coming back to haunt him this season, and he's really having trouble coming to terms with his shit. I think it's been pretty compelling with what Frenchie's been doing this entire time. Kind of interesting that he decided to like go to the police and just confess to a bunch of murders. I mean, I get that you're going through some stuff, but the team does kind of need you, Frenchie. So I don't know if that was the best thing for him to do from a moral perspective. But it'll be interesting to see where that goes. It seems like he's kind of going through like a crisis of faith or whatever. I wonder if they'll do anything interesting with that, if like he'll come to forgive himself or whatever, or learn that it's okay for him to seek forgiveness, or at the very least learn that it's okay to like sort of come to terms with your past and realize that they don't have to define who you are and whatnot. I don't know if they'll delve more deeper into the religious aspect of it all, or if he'll sort of come to that conclusion in his own way. It'll be interesting. It kind of seems like they're setting up just him and Kamiko getting back together, not necessarily romantically, but just him maybe confessing his feelings to Kamiko, and that being enough, like that friendship and that companionship. The fact that Kamiko is able to love him despite all of his faults, I feel like that might end up being how that all resolves, but we'll see. And yeah, everything with like the gen the Compound V filled up animals and like that whole sequence with the barn, I thought it was pretty wacky and pretty entertaining. I will say I don't understand why Victoria couldn't just blow all their brains up. Like she did it to one of the sheeps. I feel like she could have just done it to everybody, to all the animals. I don't know. Felt like they kind of neutered her for the sake of the plot a bit. But I mean, it was still an entertaining sequence. And then, they were kind of able to have that moment in the barn where like, or Frenchie just roasts everybody. He's like, "You all suck. Do better." I thought that was a pretty satisfying scene. Wait, did I say Frenchie? I meant Mother's Milk. Mother's Milk is able to roast everybody and whatnot. I'll be honest, it's like whenever you like wait a year for the new season to come, I kind of forgot a lot of the stuff that happened with Victoria Newman and Giancarlo Esposito. What's his name? Not Gus Fring in this show. Anyways, it's like watching this episode, it was all kind of like flooding back to me. I was like, oh yeah, they are like sort of weirdly, like he adopted her or something and whatnot. And oh yeah, I guess, yeah, she did betray him or something. I just kind of forgot a lot of that. So this episode was a lot of those memories sort of like flooding back to me. Um, but yeah, I kind of like that she like played it up that she betrayed him, but then she decided to save him again. So he'll obviously be in more of the show. It'll be interesting to see like what they do together. And yeah, it's very interesting that they're just introducing this soup killing virus. I mentioned in the last episode that it was like the show is clearly going in like an X-Men sort of direction where, in the last episode, Homelander had that line to the scientist lady where he's like, where she's like, you need human approval and you need humans to love you or whatever. Like she said that to him, but then Homelander was like, no, you see, I only need soup approval. I only need to be among my fellow soups. I don't need human approval anymore. And I don't know, I just feel like with them going with the virus and whatnot, and them, it just feels like it's leading in a very like humans versus soup direction. Like I thought the season finale of Gen V, I don't know, it just felt very X-Men to me. So I think that's sort of where the show is going to end up going, where it's just going to be humans versus soups, and it's going to be like obviously like people on both sides leaning towards the more Charles Xavier side of like, hey, we can coexist actually, and then other people leaning towards the Magneto side of like, no, they hate us, they never will love us, and like you can already see like the people that are going to be like, fighting about that, right? Like Butcher is clearly like he kidnaps Samir, and he wants to make the virus because he obviously deep down very much feels that like soups they just shouldn't exist, right? Whereas the rest of the boys are not going to be down with that. So it's very interesting. So I do feel like that's where this is going to go ultimately at the end of the day. And yeah, I thought a lot of the stuff that they're doing with VOD is super entertaining. Love whenever the show like does like cringe woke stuff like with the movies that they make with like Training A Train, and they were like I like how they were like, and we're proud to introduce the diversity movie with like 3 black people, and one of them was Black Noir. I love how they just lie. They just lie and say that Black Noir is black. Even though I don't think they've shown his face, but he sounds white. The guy who's now in the suit. So yeah, I love whenever they do that and they poke fun at the forced diversity of Hollywood and whatnot. I like the jab that they did at the MCU where they were like they announced their entire timeline or whatever, and I like the line where they were like, we just finished reshooting our reshoots, and because of that, whatever movie it was is now the most expensive movie of all time. Literally earlier today, I saw I saw a tweet. I haven't looked into it to verify if it's necessarily true or not, but I saw a tweet basically saying that Captain America Brave New World is going to end up costing like $350 million, which that sounds a little much to me. I mean, I understand that movie had reshoots and they, it was affected by the writer strikes and all that. But even still, that sounds like way too much. But it's just hilarious that news just came out on the same day that line, that joke was made in The Boys. And although I will say there was one joke that was really bad this episode. It was the one with Frenchie, or it was when they were in the barn, and Butcher was like, well, if you put the virus in the dead guy and then you throw him outside, then the lambs will fuck it, or something like that. And then Frenchie was like, oui, that man is in no condition to fuck a lamb. And everybody's like, oh, silly Frenchie. Obviously, he wasn't being literal. I don't know. That was like a really weird, I guess I can say, MCU style joke that just felt randomly thrown in there for no reason. Because obviously I feel like The Boys is usually very good about their jokes. because that's the thing with humor, right? In these sorts in these shows and superhero content is that the humor is supposed to come from how characters just naturally act. When you make Frenchie an idiot for no reason, the humor falls flat. Just, little bit of comedy analysis over here, but yeah, overall, I thought the episode was very solid. Excited to see where the rest of the season goes, and yeah, my prediction is that it's basically just going to turn into X-Men. That's just my prediction. But anyways, let me know what you think of the episode in the comments down below. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to talk about probably the best scene of the episode, which is where Homeland. I'm sorry. Yeah, I do want to talk about this before I leave. Yeah, the scene where Homelander and Ryan are like doing a good thing in stopping the movie director from harassing his assistant or whatever. Good thing, right? You want to stop Harvey Weinsteining situations, right? That's good. And I was like, okay, Homelander, I guess, is doing a good thing and not forcing his son into doing propaganda. He's wanting to let him do whatever he wants. But it's like, he can't just... He has to make it, like, psychotic. And he has to make it... he just has to mess it up. So he, like, prods Ryan into handling it in not the best way possible, where it gets to the point where Ryan like has the girl just slapping the shit out of him. And it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know, the boys is very good, right? At having Homelander sometimes, not most of the time, but sometimes he's doing like very messed up things, but sometimes it's like it does feel satisfying because he is like brutalizing people that low-key deserve it just because he can. Okay, I'm not going to say sometimes because I'm trying to think back if there are examples of this in previous seasons. I'm sure there are, but mostly like what I'm talking about is like in the last episode, right? Where Homelander just brutally murders all those scientists that abused him as a child. And shouldn't do that. Not a good thing to do. But, you'd be lying if you said it wasn't satisfying to some extent. Having this girl beat the shit out of the director. Not a good thing to do, but you'd be lying if you said that it wasn't satisfying to some extent. Because there have been examples in the past, we'll say, of, like somebody doing something messed up and their career not really being affected by it. Like they just shoot out an insincere apology and then they just keep chucking along because, what are they going to do? Fire them? Have them face consequences for their actions? Like a really good example, actually, that recently happened, just happened this past weekend. I don't need to get into it. I actually made 2 videos about it on my main channel if you want to go look that up. But the whole, like, Dr. Disrespect situation where he was exposed for, like, sending inappropriate messages to minors, right? And they're like, he fully admitted to it. It's not even an allegation. And the truth is, like, the truth of the matter is that he is going to come back to stream. Like, he did this horrible thing. He is going to come back to streaming, and he's going to be perfectly fine. His fan base is not going to care. And it's like one of those situations where it's like they called out the guy who did that to in the show. Like normally how it would go is maybe that guy gets exposed for like sexually harassing the girl. But the most that would happen would be there would be some insincere apology, and then he just goes off and he's still going to be a movie director. because that's just kind of how our society works. You know what I mean? You would be lying if you said that you didn't find it at least a little bit satisfying that she just got to beat the ever living shit out of him. You know what I mean? But obviously, it's not the right thing to do. Do not misconstrue my words. But you would be lying if the unfairness of our world, you'd be lying if you said the unfairness of our world doesn't frustrate you sometimes, and that you don't have like power fantasies of just, seeking justice with of your own accord. You know what I mean? Like, so this show, at least in the past 2 episodes, has just done a very good job of making me feel very uncomfortable because I'm not completely horrified at what I'm watching. You know what I mean? But anyways, I'm sorry. I was about to like just sign off before talking about like the best scene in the episode. But yeah, Homelander continuing to corrupt Ryan. Honestly, I can't tell if he's like genuinely manipulating or if he really is genuinely trying to like figure out the best way to parent him. Because it's like one of those things where it's like he could feel, it feels like it's also possible that like he felt Ryan pulling away, and so he figured out a way to like rein him back in, right, by saying like, hey man, you can do whatever you want. But still like manipulating him into being a terrible person. It's interesting, man. It's interesting. I think, yeah, but we'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out. Okay, now I'm gonna sign off for real, no cap. Oh, sorry. Another interesting thing that I should mention: they brought in the Gen V kids, right? The blonde girl and the guy, the curly haired guy. I don't remember their names. I think they did it in an okay way because, like, they do kind of just show up and they're like there, but I feel like that's for the best because you don't want to like, I don't know. I feel like you don't necessarily want to make it be so that people have to have seen Gen V in order to understand what's happening here. So I feel like that's the best way to go about it. I don't know if you want to completely like MCU-ify it to where it's like, hey, if you didn't watch Miss Marvel, you're not going to understand, a Daredevil Born Again. I'm not saying that that's how that's going to play out. I'm just using these as hypothetical examples. You know what I mean? But yeah, I thought it was cute how they showed up and how obviously like the whole virus thing, by the way, is picking up from Gen V. So just in case you didn't know that. But it's fine. Like you didn't need to know that in order to understand this season of The Boys. You see how it all coalesces and whatnot. But yeah, okay, that's it. I'm actually going to sign off now. Bye.